here I am again, and this time for a very special occasion because you are now you're testifying the launch of this year's Tech Trends. And as Asbrand Jan already said, this has become a more and more popular exercise that we do within STM, and I'm pleased to introduce it to you. Can we have the slides up, please? Ah, yeah, there we are. Okay, so what we've been distributing here around the room is this poster. We have more of them in the back, also a few outside at the registration desk. Do feel free to take a copy and to maybe hang it on your wall and hopefully be inspired by it until next year's edition. And as you can see, the main theme that we have for this year is artificial intelligence. But not just artificial intelligence, it's the combination of human creativity together with artificial intelligence that we think will level our business to a better future. So this is the outcome. This is the process. These were all the people gathered in December creating the input for this picture. And let me tell you a little bit more about the process. We base it on the Delphi method. You see here around the tables the members of STM's Future Lab. And they are a group of 25 to 30 people from our STM members, usually technology directors, development directors, business development people, strategy people. And we gather in December for half a day. We sit around tables, as you see, and we apply the so-called Delphi method. The Delphi method was developed in the 50s, 60s, is typically a technology forecasting technique. And I think it was developed either by the CIA or the Pentagon, but it's typically something that came from the Cold War days when it was important to understand the geopolitical balance by knowing what kind of technological capabilities the enemy could deploy. Of course, in this context, we use it in a far more peaceful way, and we try to forecast what might happen in our STM publishing world with all the technologies that are being developed and that are coming available. So what we do on an afternoon like that, we ask every member who comes, and here you can see a list of who were there. We ask everybody to bring 3 technology trends, 3 topics that they think will be impactful in the next 3 to 5 years. And we first start with a large round around the room. Everybody can list their 3 topics, so we end up with a huge list. And then we start discussing them. Plenary or around separate tables, we do both. And then we start comparing what everybody brought, where the differences are, where the commonalities are, how they can be clustered together. And the discussions are usually very lively, as you see. And then every year, I'm always happy that it happens, but then some kind of magic happens, and sort of all the ideas come to some consensus, and they come together, and we make an overview of what we think will be the main overarching trends. And that also happened this year. Then we had a little committee to whom I'm very thankful, who helped editing all the input, and then this was the result. So I would like to delve a bit deeper into the brain and start dissecting it, see what's there. And as you can see, that is sort of the main message behind the picture. There are all kind of sectors in the brain, and they correspond more or less with where certain sections are in the human brain and what they do. They have different applications of artificial intelligence, and we think that they can make the publishing process better. And in the middle of it, you see an intriguing bit of the brain, which is about deep publishing knowledge. So that's what's happening in the brain. Everything that you can do with artificial intelligence to make scholarly communication better than it was. But then there are also a lot of things happening outside the brain, and there's a lot of turmoil there because we live in uncertain times and there's a lot of uncertainty in general. And the thought bubbles depict everything that we as publishers are facing and for which we will need solutions. Some are opportunities, some are challenges. So let's go a bit deeper, and I'll take you through the inside of the head and then along the outside of the head. So as I said, inside the brain you see different sections about how artificial intelligence can enhance publishing. There's a section on data analytics. There's a very important frontal lobe about human-AI collaboration. There's the orange section about smart services. There's something about intelligent machine reading, user-oriented publishing, research integrity. And then at the bit that connects with the spine, where neuroscientists say that we have sort of a crocodile brain, sort of where all the reflexes from the evolution are kept, also where the automated processes in our body are being steered, like breathing, like heartbeat, anything that you cannot even have a will over. That is the bit where the possibility is of technology taking over. And then there's the deep publishing knowledge in the middle. I'll go through each of the sections to explain a little bit more what we had in mind as a group. So first, look at 3 sections at the top of the brain. In the middle, you see data analytics. I think everybody who was here yesterday for several talks hardly needs any more explanation about it. But you can think of all the ways that machine learning algorithms can be used, can be applied on data, on unstructured data, what kind of business models we would need behind it. There's, in general, a need for more data scientists. There's the whole thing about accountability and trust. Wait and see the panel discussion hereafter by Kent, which is all about data illiteracy and how dangerous that can be. But of course, you've been reading the newspaper about Cambridge Analytics and Facebook and whatever. So that's the section about data analytics. There's, of course, also a section, the pink one, about intelligent machine reading, where, for example, in its applications in research, you can think of automated generation of hypotheses or finding new research areas or topic modeling, topic mapping. There's a lot of talk about new applications, especially in the pharma industry, where existing medicines can be used for new treatments or can be retargeted. Meta prediction of all kinds of things, because machine learning in itself is sort of becomes a prediction machine. AI could also be used for research design in that context. And then there is that important frontal lobe, which says human-AI collaboration. You know, in human beings like us, the frontal lobe is used for planning, for programming, so it's everything that teenagers can't do because it's still under development. Some of the parents here in the room will recognize that. But well-structured people, well-planned people, they have good working frontal lobes, and we placed human-AI collaboration here. And this reflects a long discussion that was held that afternoon about the state AI is really in. Because artificial intelligence has appeared in previous editions of our tech trends, as you may remember, but never as prominently as now. And so there was a long discussion about what can we really expect from the promise of artificial intelligence. Is it something that can go on its own? And there was a very strong consensus about the fact that the current AI really needs human intervention. And if you can organize it in such a way that you have eyeballs together with AI, that's where you can gain the real benefits. So typical examples that you find there is that AI can take over the more boring side of jobs, but would still need the human selection and the human intuition. On the other hand, there could also be new jobs, humans in new places, filling up for inadequate AI. There will be increased automation in general in all kind of sectors. Well, we'll go to that when we come to the orange part of the brain. But that is, in general, what is meant here. Okay, we take a deeper slice of the brain. And there you see that little bit, gray bit, that is called deep publishing knowledge. And we placed it where in the human brain the hippocampus is located. And that is a smaller bit in the brain, but very important because it's where long-term memory builds up and also where the emotions are sourced. And of course, this whole picture is about what can machines and what can computer software take over from us. But there's a strong sense in the whole discussion that you need deep publishing knowledge to get things right. And that is particularly emphasized in a world where you hear more and more that everybody can publish themselves, as long as that there are big platforms available, as long that you can put everything in the cloud and not just articles, but all kind of research artifacts. Well, the people, I hope that many people here in the room still regard publishing as a regular art and craft and a trade that has a long history and really brings something extra. And if you then ask, what is that extra? I would nearly say, well, you know it when you have it, or something like that. But you should also see that little bit in the middle of the brain as sort of the source that should inspire all the other sections where stuff gets automated. And then a very important part for that is the orange bit, where we place the smart services. And here you see a whole list. They're listed here down on the slide. I won't mention them all, but those are all the kind of the smart services that can work on artificial intelligence. And then there's the purple bit at the back of the brain, and that is user-oriented publishing. That is something that we had before in our picture, and that can get a more prominent role now. Because it is, you know, you can compare it to individualized medicine, personalized medicine, where somebody gets a certain medicine that's completely individualized, personalized to somebody's own circumstance. And of course, we as publishers can do the same thing with information provision. So that will be the day that the researcher no longer has to look for his article or her article, but the article will find the researcher automatically. So that is this slice of the brain. Then there's another important part about research integrity, and it connects to the fact that if publishers have a real role in the current times, it is about securing integrity of information, integrity of research, integrity in publishing. And there you can also think of all kind of AI applications. You know, you can have software that helps find flaws in statistics, that helps find data manipulation, that can detect fraud and error, etc., etc. In this area, you also find all the other things that are important for research integrity, like data management plans, everything around open science, research data availability, etc., etc. Here is that little bit about tech takes over. Small part of the brain, but also a big part of the discussion that afternoon. How big is the threat that technology takes over completely? That by machine learning, algorithms breed other algorithms, and at a certain point there will be algorithms that understand us better than we understand the algorithms, and may take over the processes. And of course the whole discussions around Facebook and internet surveillance, they are all connected to this. So you'll see something there about will AI be checked by AI, and what happens if this kind of technology ends up in the wrong hands. So those were all the brain sections as we depicted it. I hope that you saw on the picture that in some spots the computer print board takes over from the wet brain in a sort of a phased way. It's not either or, but it's, you know, you'll see the bits merging together and phasing in and phasing out. We now come to everything that the publishers are facing in our environment. What's in our face? Well, very literally, at the front side, what is in our face is everything that's happening on social media, everything about easy access. This afternoon we have the session about resource access in the 21st century. You heard a lot about access problems yesterday. You also heard a lot about the whole platform play. How will that turn out? We have a thought bubble here about sharing platforms. Is it now time for a Spotify for science? If the pirates are doing that, isn't it time that we start doing it ourselves, maybe? So that's what these thought bubbles connect to. Then there are also some thought bubbles that connect to everything that has to do with trust and quality. You know, I already mentioned under research integrity how important it is that publishers guard especially that role. And we have a thought bubble about how publishing should underpin trust, help avoid crap science, quality assurance, everything. There's also a whole thought bubble about research data, because there's a strong belief that if research data becomes available, it's easier to check reproducibility and check how the soundness of publications, everything. And then, of course, there's blockchain. We have a whole session about it this afternoon, so I won't go into it too much, but it helps enormously to have blockchain on a picture because it's so popular. And here are a few other thought bubbles. A few have been inspired by what policymakers and funders want from research nowadays, like the push for open science, the whole thing around new metrics, and of course, GDPR. You know, in Europe, we sort of were in trepidation of seeing GDPR launched a few weeks from now. It is the privacy rules that will be rolled out for the whole of the EU. All the discussions that are taking place about misuse of personal data, I understand now also have evoked a discussion in the US, whether the US would need something similar. But the impact of these GDPR rules, even though we all knew already for more than 2 years that it was coming, it will be pretty impactful. And what maybe some people have never realized, in the discussion that we had in December, we heard many of the development people say that it will take so much of their development resources, that for some companies, you know, it may even take 2 years before all their marketing systems and all their subscription systems are completely in order again. And that, of course, will absorb a lot of capacity that otherwise might have gone into new services. So, you know, that is an effect that you never hear from GDPR and such rules, but it could be very impactful in itself. And there were also discussions around how will it change our products? How will it change the user interface? How will it change marketing and the way we bring information? You know, all the nice things about individualized information and that the article finds the researcher. Well, yeah, it has to happen under the proper privacy rules, of course. So that's why GDPR is there. Then there are a few smaller bubbles, because they're smaller, not because we think the impact will be smaller, but because they're less technology driven. They're more political and more sort of about the geographical developments. It's about research in Asia. It's about what can happen with the Brexit. Don't forget that many STM publishers are based in the UK. And there's also something about net neutrality, because we in Europe still have it, but you no longer have it here in the US, and nobody has really sorted out what that effect may be. So this brings us again to the whole picture. These were all the sections inside the brain. And the deeper message is, it's about creative humans and smart machines working together. And here you have the whole picture with the thought bubbles around it, all the challenges around it, all the opportunities. And the printout is available. You can all take it home. I hope it will be a source of inspiration to you all. And before I hand over to Chris Keneally, who will have a panel discussion, who will lead a panel discussion here on all the elements and how it may impact the business, the floor is open for questions or people who would like immediate clarifications on something that maybe I explained not quite clearly enough yet. Are there any questions about the picture? Do you like the picture? Okay, good. Well, in that case, Chris, I think I can hand over to you and invite the panel members here to the front, the row. No, okay. I think we can.